Welcome to the third installment of the series of videos that are very controversial and I'm gonna get a lot of angry comments about. This is gonna be a video on why I never get Devilsaur first. The Devilsaur set, as you guys know, it has 2% hit, it is a leather working set, you can buy it, it is BOE, and it usually runs you for somewhere around 500 to 600 gold in total, which for two best in slot items, it is not an unreasonable amount of gold. As you can see, you also get 2% crit here, so let's actually write that down, let's write it down. So as you can see, that's the Devilsaur set right there, 2% crit, 2% hit, 74 attack power total, and that's all you get from two items. It is two items and it is leather, that's also very important. If you're a DPS, it is not important unless you kinda off tank sometimes, but for the most part it is not a problem. But if you are a tank, that is a big deal, armor is a problem. Early on, later on it's not a problem. So of course, if I am here telling you that it is not worth it, it's because there is something better, right? Well, what is it? The leggings got pretty much a perfect analog, and that's gonna be the Blade Master leggings. They drop from the Beast in Ubers. It is a fairly common drop. It is not very hard to get at all. It has 1% hit, 1% crit, and 1% dodge, and 5 agility on top of that. So you guys know, you got two items and they give you 2% hit and crit. So one item giving you 1%, it is basically the same item. You are, however, sacrificing 46 attack power. 46 attack power is the equivalent to 23 strength. And you only get 5 agility or dodge, which is not important for a DPSer, but you get 5 agility in return. Agility is not as good as strength, and it is only 5 compared to 23, so that is a problem, that is less. Now for the gloves, the replacement is actually a little harder, but here's the thing, right? If you are a warrior and you're trying, no matter what you do, even if you're kinda okay or if you're a super tryhard, you are not gonna want these gloves for a lot longer. Because yes, you can have a weapon racial. If you have a weapon racial, that is not a problem. If you are in the horde, however, even access is not a great weapon racial. You are gonna need a weapon racial item. And what is that item? Obviously the Edge Master handguards. Of course, 7 weapon skill for access, swords and daggers. If you are not a human, you are going to need this item, but I get it. This thing goes for 8,000 gold. It is not reasonable at all for most people to get, except for the swipers, obviously. There is something else that people go for, actually. The core aged leather gloves. As you can see, they got 1% crit, which would be the same value as the gloves. You also get 15 strength, which is 30 attack power compared to 28 attack power, so that's a little better. You get fire resistance on top of that, and your dagger skill, of course, you are going daggers. Yes, it is best in slot for warriors without a racial to go daggers early on. There is only one ability in Fury while wielding that actually does weapon damage, and these gloves are fairly common. They drop from 4 different bosses, so a lot of warriors, especially tanks, they are gonna go for this item in Molten Core, and that's bad news because the item is gonna get replaced immediately if that's the case. As soon as it drops, for example, we got a warrior tank in my guild, and I am pretty sure he's gonna get dibs on the first one because it is such a big deal for the tank to get this item. However, for the meantime, until you get these gloves from Molten Core, because a lot of people are gonna want them, you can take this item. Now, this is where people get really freaking mad at me. These gloves got 2% hit, which is even more value. That's the entire Devilsaur for free. It is mail, and they give you 9 agility on top of that. So why wouldn't you take this item? Why is this item so controversial? It looks like a great item, right? That's because it is part of a quest, and that quest also rewards this belt, which gives you 1% crit and 15 strength. Now, if you already got the hit cap, this belt will be best in slot. So you got that going on, and if you got a weapon racial, perhaps Devilsaur makes a lot more sense because you're not gonna take those gloves. But people like making it look like you are pretty much forced to take this item. There is no possible alternative you can get, and that's where most people are wrong. Because there is another great belt that you can get, and it is Plate. Right here, the Brigand Girdle, it is the same stats, 15 strength, even more stamina actually, and instead of 1% crit, it has 1% hit. And a lot of people are gonna want this one. It is a fairly common drop from Drakisat, 22% drop rate, so it is very easy to get as well. And these two belts, if you do not have the hit cap, they are pretty much equivalent, so you are not forced to take this belt. I just want to make that very clear. So effectively, if you trade these two items together, you take the 2% crit from Devilsaur and it turns into 1% crit from the leggings. Then you take 2% hit and you actually gain hit, not going Devilsaur, you get 3% hit. crit, and you take 74 attack power and you trade it for 14 agility. 14 agility is 0.7% crit, so this is actually 1.7% here. Not quite the same, but close. If you are Alliance, it is a little more even because you got the Blessing of Kings modifier, it's 10% more. Attack power doesn't benefit from Blessing of Kings, of course. I am not gonna count it because I do not even play Alliance, but that's something you might consider. But as you can see, the gap in power, the difference between these two items is not as huge as you might think. If you do not have the hit cap, 1% hit will beat 74 attack power every single time. Now, that doesn't mean that I am trying to tell you that Devilsaur is not better, because Devilsaur is better. Especially because if you go for Boons, Vice, Grips, you are forced to take the Brigand Girdle instead, which is 1% hit instead of 1% crit. So in 3 items you would get a total of 4% hit. If you get a weapon racial, you only need 6% hit. If you don't, of course, I really mean it. If you do not have a weapon racial early on, you should definitely not go for Devilsaur. But if you do get a weapon racial, your case is a lot weaker because 2% hit, one of them comes from Blackstone Ring, obviously, and the other one comes from Black Crow, and you're already capped. So you are almost definitely gonna waste hit if you do not go for Devilsaur with a weapon racial on you. And in that case, I would say you don't have to get it. But my other point, okay, this is a very important point. First of all, how many of you are gonna be full pre-raid beast when Molten Core is out? Because Molten Core is already out and I am not even 60 yet. And I bet most of you are in a similar situation too. So is it really gonna matter to you that you're gonna be wasting hit 3 weeks from now when you spent money to get the Devilsaur set? Probably not, I would say no. Besides, like I said, what if you do Molten Core the first week of Molten Core and these gloves drop and you gotta go daggers because you're the main tank or something, and then you're screwed, you cannot go for Devilsaur. Or what if you get Edge Masters at some point? Same problem, you cannot go for Devilsaur. But here's the thing, the nail in the coffin for everybody to try to get people to see my way, to see my point. This is the Lionheart Helmet. It is a crafted item, an expensive item at launch. It drops down in price as time goes on, of course. But this helmet is best in slot all the way to tier 2. Everyone, and I mean everyone, tank or DPS, should get this helmet. And this helmet is way more expensive than Devilsaur, but it is still something that's kinda reasonable. You can spend 800 to 1000 gold on it compared to the 600 of Devilsaur. And when this item that gives you 2% hit and 2% crit, which is the same as a single the entire Devilsaur set, a single item is the same as the entire Devilsaur set, and this helmet will be best in slot pretty much forever for you, I can't make a strong case for Devilsaur. The only reason I would ever go for Devilsaur is if I got infinite money because I swiped, and I sure do hope you are not swiping. So if swiper no swipey, Lionheart takes priority over Devilsaur every single time. And by the time I will get Devilsaur, because I gotta pay for Lionheart first, I am very likely to get something else for gloves or for legs, maybe something in Molten Core dropped. I don't know, I cannot tell the future, but I am telling you, just because a BOE is a very good item, it doesn't mean it is a good investment. And that's what I want to drive across. That's what I want everybody to understand. So conclusion TLDR, if you got a weapon racial, Devilsaur makes a lot more sense. If you got infinite gold, Devilsaur might as well get it. But if you do not have a weapon racial, or if you do not get infinite gold, there is always very good alternatives with even more hit and very similar stats, and they drop in dungeons for free. A 10% difference in stats when one is 600 gold and the other one is free is not good value. You are better off spending that money on literally anything else. Subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.